Let's begin to talk about how Abraham was commanded to be Muslim. Hey guys, this is Jacolia of Jacolia Gems. Thank you for once again coming back home, family. For those of you that happen to be new here, welcome. I definitely hope you hear something today that will persuade you to stay. If you have not already done so, exactly what you're waiting for. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment down below, and share it to your social media platforms. So you guys, we're going to make this very quick. We've already ascertained a lot of Islam in the Bible, and I'm going to link the videos down below, as well as the article explaining on how the Hebraic and the Aramaic writers of the biblical narrative and interpreters begin to state that when the word Taimim, Tamim, is used to mean sound or wholeness, to destroy, be utterly cut off, that is used in the sentence structure when our prophets were commanded to be perfect instead of Muslim. And we know that this would be due to the scribal interpolations that began to be inserted by the Levitical priesthood that consisted of Levi, who was cursed and his assemblies should not be taken part in, as well as consisting of the Judeans, whom were wholly and totally given away to the Rechabite, Midianite, and Kenite deity of Yahweh, combined with the Assyrians from 722 BC captivity, with the Persians going into 333 BC, with the Babylonians going into 586 BC, and then you have the Greco-Roman in around the 200 to 167 BC. These people groups, as well as the Egyptians, the Nabateans, began to take over the priesthood, which was never supposed to be set in order. When we begin to look at the word Muslim, it means perfect, sound. When we begin to look at the root of the word Muslim, it takes us to the Shin, which is S, the Lamek, which is L, and the Mem, which is M. It's also essential to know that the Shin could also be replaced with the Samek, due to the fact that the Sabine, whom is a Cushitic Afro-Asiatic language, begins to, or Sabine could actually come out of Sheba, which will also be an Afro-Asiatic language coming out of the Semitic people groups. They begin to use the Samek over the Shin, when it comes to spelling out the root of Salam. The root Salam is going to take us to Shemot, Shelmut. And this is completion, a wholeness, a perfection that is being spoken about. So whenever you see the root SLM in a Hebraic word, it should bring you to Shemot. When we begin to look at the word Shalom, Shalma, the participial, meaning the form of past tense and continuation form of the word Shalom, would cause us to put a mem as the prefix. So instead of SLM, it would be MSLM, making it a continuation and an action form. So the word Muslim is rooted in Shalom. It's rooted in Salam. It is rooted in Shemot, meaning that it has been a concept since the beginning of time. When we begin to look at, and I stated this in a previous video, Genesis 13:1, it begins to say that Elohim began to Alah Abraham out of Egypt. Alah. This is the root of the word Olah, Olah, which is a form of sacrifice, that which is brought up and taken out. Allah is that which went out. or was drawn out, versus Musa or Moshe, which is an Egyptian word. Now, we also are aware of the fact that Hebrew had a great influence on Middle Egyptian due to the fact that the Hebrews were, in fact, in Egypt. And this is the reason that you begin to see the pictographic form of the Medu Neter due to the Sumerian pictographic and the Nasibi pictographic language in West Africa, coming from these Hebraic and Cushitic people groups. So when we begin to look at Allah, it means he went out of. It says that in Abraham, Allah, Egypt. So Allah brought Abraham out of Egypt with a mighty, strong hand. So when one is submitted to Allah, what begins to happen is Abraham made an altar, whether it be of stone or earthen mound. It had to be from the earth to Allah based off of him bringing him out. He had a vision or a dream or a auditory instruction from the deity on when to leave, where to go. And therefore, he began to build up an altar, pour out probably a wine or a water libation in order to constitute being brought into a new place. When we begin to look at Allah, it begins to state that the sacrifices of the patriarch of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob varied distinguishedly between the sacrifices that was constituted by Moses. So when we begin to look at the concept of Muslim, this is simply a call to perfection. When we begin to look at the word Muslim, people begin to say it means to submit to Allah. I just told you how Abraham submitted to Allah, he that which drew him out. Submission to Allah is submission to one deity. Allah shares the same roots as Eloha, and this is due to the fact that both of them are brother and sister languages. We need to know that the submission to Allah is the submission to one heavenly power. And we begin to see this mapped out in Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter and the 4th verse. When it begins to say submit, we often say, "Hear, Israel." We need to know that Shema is also rooted in the Shalmot. So this is submission, which Muslim begins to be interpreted as. So this says, submit Yasharallah Hashem, which is the name, Akkad, is one. Therefore, we were called to Islam and to submission to Allah from the very beginning of time, and the English interpretation of the Bible, as well as the priestly interpolations, have begun to bastardize the message from the beginning, as well as call a rift between the Arab people and the Negro people. And we begin to see this split take precedence even in the land masses, when the Sahara Desert was the Sahara rainforest. And what began to take place was a split between the Arabian Desert and Northeast Africa, which is West Africa. And this caused a split between the nations that came out of Abraham, of the E1B1A and the E1B1B DNA. And they have the exact paternal ancestry, meaning that the mothers were different. Therefore, the split between Isaac and Ishmael and Jacob and Esau were seen since the beginning of time. Muslim and Islam is the call to the Israelites. This is Jacoya.